if I could go back, I would major in hospitality. I'd redo my college major. I'd major in hospitality. I would intern and get experience with a whole bunch more people. Obviously, everything worked out. Everything's great. But I think that as much experience as you can gain on the front end in the industry, the better off you'll be. And those relationships will take you so many places. So the more people that know you, the more people that are comfortable having you around on the wedding day, you'll get referrals. They'll lead you to new clients. They'll lead you to who knows what.
Welcome to the Before You Say I Do podcast. This podcast helps wedding couples learn industry secrets about the wedding industry and the various wedding vendors in the DC, Maryland, and Virginia areas. My name is Joshua Buxton, and I am your host. With over 7 years as a professional wedding videographer, I have filmed many weddings all over the United States and hope to help wedding couples find the right vendors before they say I do. Welcome to Before You Say I Do podcast. I'm Joshua Buxton with Buxton Media Productions, a local wedding videography company here in Pasadena, Maryland. Today, on our first episode of this podcast, I have Katie Fisher with Social Graces. Welcome, Katie.
Thank you so much.
So tell me a little bit about Social Graces and how you started your business.
Sure. So Social Graces started almost 8 years ago, about 7.5 years in business. We are now a team of 14 people.
14?
Yes. Yeah. Big team. Started out as a one-woman show, doing everything on my own, then I added a couple assistants, a couple leads, and now we're a full-fledged team. So really excited about that and the growth that's happened over the last almost 8 years. And to be perfectly honest, we started really organically. We started in the time when day of coordinators were a new thing, like the venues just started requiring them. Like that seems crazy to think about, but it was a new idea. And I had some friends and people that were getting married and their venue was requiring them to have someone as their day of coordinator and literally was getting asked, will you do this, whatever this role is for me? And I just started doing weddings and helping people. And then I started getting referred to people that I didn't know. And then I started getting asked, well, what do you charge? What's your pricing? And I realized this should probably have a name and be a company and be something. And I did it for a while as a side hustle and in addition to my full-time job, and then went full-time and haven't looked back ever since then. And it's just crazy. It started organically, which doesn't happen for everybody, but that's how Social Graces started.
Well, it is kind of crazy because like nowadays, like that is a whole job, that's a whole industry,
right.
And like wedding, of course, is its own industry and it's changed a lot over the many years. But now a lot of people who want to start their own wedding planning services, like they probably start off as an assistant. Right. As a company like yours. Right. That's crazy. So how do you structure your business then? Like you have 14 people, like are a lot of them full-time or like you bring them in just for the day? Like how do you work that out?
Yeah. So I have one other planner on the team that's a lead planner. She does weddings her own. I sometimes don't even talk to those clients. Like they're just hers from the very beginning.
That's great. Yeah.
And then most of the women that work for me either are working another job or they have small children or they are kind of in a gig economy and they teach workout classes and they do this and they do that. And they work for me in addition to those things. So contract employees. But I basically come to them each year and I say, what are you interested in doing this year? What's your capacity? How many do you want? And figure out the year structure of what that'll look like. Some of them do a lot. Some of them work every weekend and some of them just dapple here and there to do a couple weddings a year.
No, that's awesome. I mean, with 14 people, like I'm imagining, like how many weddings a year do you take on? Like a certain amount of weddings, or do you kind of open it up for like these dates are the ones that I'm going to take clients, or how does that work out for you for couples?
I would say as a team, we do around 40 to 45 weddings a year.
Wow.
Typically, obviously some years, 2 years ago, we did 77 because we were backing up from all of the COVID. I never want to see that number again. I never want to think about that. Just saying that makes me sick to my stomach. But we had to backfill with all of our COVID couples and making sure that we could schedule everyone as they needed. But on average, we do around 40 to 45 a year. And that's divvied up between myself and the other lead planner. But we have capacity to be doing 2 weddings a day every day. So if it came in, we would figure out how to do more than that. Yeah.
No, that's nice. Yeah, like 77 weddings. I think I would cry.
It was not good. It was not good. I mean, it was good. It was wonderful.
It is good,
but
that's so much coordinating. It's like, and I think what wedding couples miss a lot of times, especially for wedding vendors, is how much time is spent on the front end with them. And like for their wedding, like, yes, we're there for the day of your wedding, but there's so much time that they don't see going on behind, closed doors of like what makes their wedding successful. Can you talk a little bit more about that, about, with wedding planning, like how much time is like spent before even the wedding day?
Sure. Yeah. And I think it's different for our different types of clients. So we have full planning clients who we start with them from the very beginning. They might not have even booked their venue or their date or anything at that point. And we start with them to plan the entire thing. So we meet on a monthly basis. We're doing every email is being streamlined through us. They're included on it. They're CC'd on the messages, but we're doing all the legwork for them for the entire planning process. Our partial clients start about 6 months out. So they've done kind of the bigger pieces of the puzzle. They have an overall design in mind. They've probably hired their bigger vendors, but we come in and we do everything, go through everything with a fine-tooth comb, make sure everything is the way that it should be, and then do those smaller details in the final 6 months. So linens, tabletop rentals, unique seating charts, paper products, kind of the things that make it feel more like their wedding day and not just any wedding day off of Pinterest or Instagram.
Right.
And we meet with those clients on a monthly basis too, but just in those final 6 months. And we handle all of their invitations and assembly and RSVP and everything that happens in those final 6 months. And then our month of clients are more event facilitation. So they've done all the front end work. They've figured everything out. They've hired all their vendors, but we come in 45 to 60 days out and do that final venue walkthrough and consultation meeting, take all their contracts, take everything, digest it all, and put it together in what we call the master guide, which is like a big 12 to 14 page document of timeline, floor plan, seating chart, vendor list, contact information, everything that's going out to those vendors. So it really depends hours wise and what we do depending on the package. But I mean, our work is not even as dedicated to the wedding day, but that is the smallest portion of it, is those 14 hours that we spend on site on the wedding day. It seems like that's the main role, but everything that happens before then is really the most time intensive part.
Absolutely. Yeah. Some of the things that I've learned, I've been in the wedding industry for 6-7 years now, doing wedding videography. And a lot of misconceptions that I've seen is that, oh, well, I hired you for 6 hours. Like that's all you're really putting into. And it's like, oh, you're missing the point. Like it takes hours of like, one, onboarding a client, telling them the expectations, contracting, getting the gear set up. And then there's all the editing we do at the end. Like the wedding day is just a small portion, but if we do our jobs right, that portion of the day goes so smooth.
Right.
And especially for wedding planning, like there's so much that's done on the front end that, the wedding couple won't see any bad things going on that day because of how much work went in the front end. And like with you, like having 8 years of experience, like you come in with so much that wedding couple should be extremely happy. And like recently, how we know each other is Kim and Pat's wedding.
Yeah.
And that venue was amazing. So how did they find that venue before they worked with you, or did you get them to the venue?
They already had their venue when they inquired, and that venue we work at often. So they kind of got our name. I think they got our name because we work there, and through the venue, I think we're on their like preferred list of people that they trust to be there. But
it's a beautiful venue.
It's a beautiful venue.
Gosh.
And they require that clients have at least a month of coordinator. So the venue has set themselves up for success, that their clients are going to have someone to lead them through that final process. Most of the weddings that we've planned there, we've done at least partial or full planning, but they require at least a month of planner to be part of that process with their clients.
I mean, that's kind of smart because for like wedding venues, so much has to happen, and it actually helps the venue out a lot to having a planner who knows what they're doing, especially like that venue was incredible to film out. I was happy that I could get some drone footage of the place because it was so beautiful at sunset. Like everything worked out for that wedding was spectacular. Like the only downside was it was so hot that day,
Right.
and we had to move everything indoors. And
Right.
I was like, now granted, even the indoors was beautiful, but the outdoors, I mean, it was stunning. And that was the only downside to the whole wedding day was the fact that it was just too hot of a day. But
well, the weather is the only thing you can't control on a wedding day.
And that's well, that's a really good point. And something I talk to my wedding couples about is like, what is your backup plan? Especially if it rains, like I can only have my wedding gear out there for so long, and then I've got to pull it in at some point. So, that's how do you deal with that with couples, like talking about backup plans? Because in their head, they're like, I want this wedding this way.
For sure. I mean, it's a conversation that we have really early on. So if we're part of the venue selection process, we make sure that they like or are comfortable with plan B, plan C, whatever the plans would be. I would say just as general wedding advice, like do not book a venue that you do not like the backup plan, because I don't know what the exact percentage would be, but it happens a lot that you're using the backup plan, whether it's heat or rain, or, I mean, this year we had a ton of wind and hurricanes and crazy things. I mean, I think most of our weddings this year had some sort of element that was not in line with what we were expecting because of weather.
Right.
If you have a lot of time or something's coming in, like those big hurricanes that we had in September this year, we had warning, we knew about it. Like the week of the wedding, we could make a lot of beautiful decisions to make plan B what it is. But sometimes that weather comes in out of nowhere and you have to be comfortable to move it. I mean, we made that heat decision the day before the wedding of like, it's definitely not going to cool down. It's definitely going to be hot, and making the best choice for them and their guests. But you always have to like and be comfortable with the second plan. I mean, sometimes we go to plan D, E, F. Like, I mean, you need to have lots of plans in place.
Well, so now I'm curious. You talk about having like that multiple plans. Like, what venues have you been at where you actually had a DEF plan? Like, I'm because in my head, I'm like always thinking like, well, there's a plan A and a plan B, but I've never thought that far down the road of like things. And that's incredible that you think of those things.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we had a venue a couple years ago that was building a new space that had guaranteed to our clients that the new space would be ready to go. And I mean, with a year in advance, you would think that that would happen when they have a plan. But it wasn't. And as we got closer, we were making different choices. And as it got closer, we were making different choices from there. And I mean, truly, their event was beautiful, but we ended up we were supposed to be in a building, inside ceremony, inside reception. We ended up at a church with an outside tent with draping. Like, I'm just like, it was beautiful. It was one of the most beautiful wedding days we've produced, but it was not at all in line with the original plan. And the funny thing is, we looked for venues with them, and mom's number one stipulation was we are not going to end up in a tent outside in September. And we were in a tent outside in September. She was fine. But it's just, you always have to have plans in place. And to be perfectly honest, that final plan, I mean, we changed draping, we changed florals, came in place about 3.5 weeks before the wedding when we were on site. And I was like, okay, I'm looking at this building and this is not going to be ready in 3 weeks. So we have to have a plan. So.
Oh, that's, yeah. I feel like I go into every wedding day thinking like, okay, what's my plan B? What's my plan C? Because so many things can happen the day of the wedding too. Like so many things shift around, whether it's scheduling, the rain comes and nobody saw it coming. I mean, I'm from Oklahoma, so like we can have 4 seasons in a day, right? And you don't know what's going to happen. Here, it's a little bit more predictable, which I like. But like with rain and stuff like that, I've had weddings like 30 minutes before the ceremony, like we were moving indoors and like nobody saw it coming. And, you just have to be able to pivot. And, and that's another thing that, like I try to explain to, couples and potential clients is that, you want to have an experienced vendor. Like you want to have somebody that is really going to understand how to be able to pivot on a moment's notice,
right? Because
so many things can happen the day of your wedding. And for us, like we don't want to miss a single moment. Like we want to make sure that we capture everything like it's supposed to be captured. And with our experience, like we're able to be able to do that and provide that for a lot of our clients. But yeah, like with wedding planning, like that's the whole purpose is like, you got to come up with plan D, E, F for every scenario that could happen out there.
Yeah. And then you still have to really be thinking on your feet, right? Like you can have all the plans in place, but like you have to have a level head and be ready to, at a moment's notice, come up with another plan. So like in the crazy weather that we had this year, a storm rolled through and I wasn't there, but my lead planner, Victoria, the storm literally was coming in out of nowhere. Ceremony was set, everything was ready to go. And all of a sudden they realized, oh no, they were right on the water. Like this is coming in, this is happening. And they changed to the inside cocktail hour before the ceremony. So they shifted the whole entire timeline on the spot, ready to go, worked with the venue and the vendors to do cocktail hour inside before, shift everybody to that outside ceremony because that was really important to our client. She had this vision and really important. She'd rather switch the timeline around than switch the ceremony. Cleaned everything off, cleaned the chairs off, reset the florals, had everything ready to go, moved people out for the ceremony. And then after ceremony, they just went into the reception for dinner. Like that is on the spot thinking and working, and the trust of the other vendors for our planning team to say, hey, this is my crazy idea. I think if we shift this, they'll get everything that they wanted in this day. And we've just created a pre-ceremony cocktail hour, and the vendors being like, yeah, we can do that. Let's do that. And everybody working together. And that doesn't happen unless you have someone experienced and someone ready to make that happen for you.
Right. I mean, and you bring up another really good point that we can talk about. And that's like, what is the importance of like being able to work with vendors? And like, everybody kind of has their preferred list of people that they want to work with. And, the importance of that, especially for a wedding couple, when they're considering, I want to hire these people, who do you recommend? How do you work that out? Because you're kind of on the front end of a lot of these weddings. And so how do you work out, I want to work with these vendors, and how do you work with those vendors?
Yeah. I mean, I think being in the industry for a really long time and meeting a lot of different people, like we have a really strong Rolodex of recommendations. We don't require that our clients work with any specific vendors. Some planning companies do, like you have to choose between this smaller group, which is fine. I mean, to each their own. They've curated a really great list and they go with it. We think that every client should be able to hire whoever they want, but also here's a really good list of people that we've already have experience with and we already know and have started with. And for our full planning clients, we help them hire every single vendor. So photographer, as an example, we say to them, show me some photographs that you really love from wedding days. To me, it doesn't matter if the photographer lives in Australia. Like, it doesn't matter. I just want to see what you love, what you like, because stylistically, photographers are really different. And,
yes, they are.
Do you like, is it coloring? Is it the moments? Is it the candidness? Like, what do you love about these things? And then, okay, here is a list of 5 to 8 photographers in our area that match what you're looking for and also match this really important budget number that we've already set aside. Like, so budget is the first thing that we talk about, and we set aside where the priorities are and what they want to spend so that we're not inquiring with vendors that are outside of that budget. And obviously, budget changes for pricing changes for vendors every year, but we can give a roundabout idea of this is where they were last year, this is what we think we can spend. And then we inquire and do all of that. But we love the vendors that we work with. And I mean, some planners will tell you they have like a blacklist of people that they don't work with. We definitely don't have one of those. And people will say that I'm lying, but I'm not lying. We don't have a blacklist. We will work with whoever you want to work with. But I think we build really good trusting relationships with our vendors on site that people want to work with us again, or at least that's what they tell me, right? They want to work with us again and see us there. And venues, same thing. Like they have a preferred list a lot of times of people that they want on site. And we're just really nice, good people and make good relationships with people. And our number one priority is making the wedding day stress-free, not only for our clients, but for the vendors, and have everything flowing really well. We are yes people. Like if someone needs something, we're helping. It's not, oh, that's not my job responsibility. Like we will take care of it. We will be there. If it's up on a ladder, if it's whatever, like we will help take care of it. And I think we get time and time again, our team gets compliments of, it's so nice to work with you. It's not always like this. Like there's like almost a negative connotation sometimes with the way some planners act, apparently. This is what I hear. And we just really want to embody and make sure that we are there for the best interest of everybody on a wedding day.
Yeah. I mean, I can definitely say that, I've worked with a lot of wedding planners, and like working with you with Kim and Pat's wedding, I was like, that's right. Like we're all in the same goal to provide that client the best experience possible. Like we're all working together for the same purpose.
Right.
And, that day I thought went really smooth, with all the things that could happen that day. I thought it was a really well-ran wedding. So
yeah. And same thing, like a photographer will need 5 more minutes for shots or something. And they'll look at me almost like, if we haven't worked together before, they don't know me well or something. They'll be like, I just need like 5 more minutes. Like, it's like they're begging me. And I'm like, okay, like what? It's fine.
We'll make it work.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh my gosh, thank you. And I'm like, well, you need the time to do your job, and we'll make it up somewhere. That's why the whole day is in 5-minute blocks, because some things take 3 minutes and some things take 7 minutes, and it all flows out in the end.
Yeah, it all works out towards the end. I think people get so wrapped up. I've seen a lot of stress out wedding couples because they get so buried into I've got this timeline. We got to hit this timeline. Like, no, like, don't be so stressed about that. The vendors will take care of it. Like we will watch out for your needs. Like we will get you what you want. We'll give you everything delivered like you wanted it. But you can really relax,
Right.
And I feel like couples they get so worked up about, like this is the timeline, we have to stick to it. But it really doesn't have to be that bad. It could be so much easier than that.
Yeah. And a lot of times parents get really attached to that timeline and idea. And they're like, run a show? Like you're handling this, right? Like we don't have to. And I was like, my goal would be that you have no idea what time it is.
Exactly.
Like I don't need you to know if it's 6:05 or if it's 6:12 or whatever. Like you need to not worry about time. Mm-hmm. Don't wear a watch. Don't carry your phone around. Like just be in the moment and enjoy it. And all of the flow will happen on the back end between us and your vendors. Things shift. Sometimes dad talks for 27 minutes when he was only supposed to talk for 6. Like you never know.
Yes.
You never know what's going to happen.
I've seen those too many times.
Just let us handle the adjustment of things. So.
Right. Oh man, dad speeches. I love them, but man.
Sometimes it's a really good 27 minutes. And I'm like, that was beautiful. Now we need to make up a lot of time somehow. But sometimes it's not a beautiful 27 minutes, but that's okay too.
Yeah. So tell me like I'm thinking through of like kind of what this year is looking like in 2024 versus like 2023 and years past. Like what are some new trends that you're seeing wedding couples are looking for?
Yeah, I think in 2024, at least our clients, I think there's a big appetite for color and pattern and mixed textures and linens. And I feel like we will always book like classic, timeless, beautiful weddings, which we love. I mean, it's totally fine to do an all white wedding with greenery and whatever. Beautiful. But I think a lot of people are trying to do something a little bit different. And we're doing a lot of textures and mixed patterns and colors in general. I think there's a lot of appetite for like citrus and butter yellow and that kind of colors this year, which is different. I mean, we haven't seen that in some time. But I think it also takes a lot of trust. So like our design clients, for us to say, oh yeah, these 3 very different things actually will go together, unless you have a design mind or, can really visualize it, it's hard. So there's a lot of trust in the more interesting and crazy designs because they can't see it all coming together. So, it allows them to just put the trust in us for us to say, I promise these 3 linens will go together. Like, let's mix tabletop stuff. Let's do all of that. And then it all comes together on the wedding day, which is a big reveal moment and one of our favorite moments of the wedding day for people to see.
I definitely notice that like wedding planners love doing the big reveal to them, especially in the reception area. And I always try to make sure I capture those things because, the eyes are like, oh my gosh, this is amazing, and it's good to see like their vision come to life, through your passion and everything. So that's really, it's great to capture things like that. I love capturing those kind of things. What about some like other trends? Like I'm starting to see some trends on like what we do, especially when it comes to capture and everything for the day. It's like I'm seeing a shift of like not so much people are not looking for the highlight videos, but they want full videos of ceremony, speeches, dances. Those are the important things to them, because that was like something that was important in like the 90s and early 2000s. it's like the camcorder, like the whole day shoot.
Right.
I want everything captured. And I'm starting to see a shift to that. And so we've kind of shifted our waves a little bit of offering that again, as we call it the traditional package.
Yeah. I mean, I think like a feature film or a featurette or highlight or whatever you're going to call it from a videographer standpoint is great to like package it all together and allow them to share it with like the general audience or people they don't know or social media or however they're going to share it. But those full speeches, full dances, full ceremony, that's more for them, right? Like to relive it. I mean, my husband and I, we rewatch our weddings films all the time. Our kids watch them. They think it's fun. But having just a snippet or a soundbite of that speech in a feature film is great, but you're only getting like a really small chunk of it. And not everybody wants to see that full speech again, but having that down the line to rewatch the whole thing, I think is really important. And just this generation in general, they want all the content that they can have. And they want to have all the content and they want to figure out how they want to use it. Give me everything. And I know that I have it. And then how they share it is kind of their own choice. But they definitely just want to have all the content and have all of it.
Yeah, I feel like for years it was like, all right, I want to highlight video that I can share on social media, but it's definitely shifting a little bit more to the, I want to have something I can remember 10, 20, 30 years down the road of like, I want the whole ceremony, which is something, we offer that in all of our packages is because I know that that's important. But yeah, that's one of the shifts I've seen recently, and we're kind of shifting with that a lot. What are some like other trends of like new things that people are doing, like new vendor type stuff? Like I'm seeing last year, I saw a lot of like cigar rolling and what else? I've seen some crazy things and I'm like, that's new and trendy. Like what are new vendors are you seeing like pop up?
Yeah, I think there is a shift. Obviously planning beautiful weddings that look nice is really important, but also there is a shift in experience for guests, like immersive experiences that they remember that stand out to them. So we've been doing live cigar rollers for years, but it seems like it's becoming a more popular ask. So having someone that's rolling live cigar, like a live cigar roller, having a live painter or someone that's doing something that's art related for people to see, having like a cool food vendor, like we had a coffee cart at Kim and Pat's wedding, awesome. Or like a ice cream truck, or something that is interactive food wise, just something that leaves your guests talking about the wedding day later on. And they're always usually wish list items, things we leave till later on and hope that there's budget for it, but sometimes they're the forefront of like a whole experience. So like having a shucker at your cocktail hour for oysters, things like that. Like something that now our focus for cocktail hour, if we're having a shucker there, is focused around this whole feel of the oysters, and we're using them in other ways in the design elements. So sometimes it drives a vision for part of the day, and sometimes it's just like a fun add-on. But I think people are looking for experiences that their guests are going to be talking about later on, because you want it to be beautiful, you want it to be all these things, but it's those immersive experiences that people really sticks with them and they remember later on.
Yeah, oysters. That coming from Oklahoma, I was like, oysters are everywhere around here. What is this? Like everybody loves oysters, and I can't do it. I can't do the oyster thing. So I know my wife likes them, and she's from Oklahoma too, but I cannot do the oyster thing. It's the texture. I just can't do it. But I've seen it a lot at weddings, and so I'm like, oh, it's really a thing here. So that's we have people eating them, like shucking them. We use them as decor. We use them as place cards. We use them on seating charts. If you're having a waterfront wedding, which for most of our spring is pretty much all that we are doing, then it kind of falls in theme there. It's such an interesting, I had to get used to it. Now I see it more and more often with the weddings around here. So I know you have a masterclass that you have that you help with wedding couples to understand like what it is, the plan. Can you tell me a little bit more about your masterclass?
Sure. So we created a masterclass that is online for couples that are planning a wedding. So basically it is bite-sized chunks of how to plan a wedding, video recorded of myself talking into a microphone, very much like this. And it goes through each phase of planning a wedding. So making a budget, creating an overall design, hiring each vendor, everything that you should think about. Basically, if you were a full planning client of ours, all of the information we would be telling you and giving you, but it's on your own, self-paced, self-guided. You can kind of map out with our timeline when you should be thinking about certain things, depending on how long your engagement is. And it really allows us to educate people that maybe we would never work with, that would never be our clients. They could live all over the country. They maybe would never hire our team to plan their wedding, but it allows them to get our knowledge and experience online at their own pace. We also have a community that's involved. So anyone that's in the class, we have monthly calls to kind of connect and Zoom time. It's basically like a hot seat, like ask any question that you've got going on this month of what are you thinking about? What do you have? Like if you log on live, I will be there literally to answer anything. So you're not only getting the content, but you're also getting kind of like a hot seat live moment to ask any question, depending on where you are in your planning process. But yeah, it's all online. It's run through a like educational forum, so you can log in and see all your videos and all of that. And it's on our website. We do give it to all of our month of event facilitation clients. So anyone that books month of planning with us will automatically get access to that so that they kind of have the beginning foreground understanding of planning a wedding. And then we come in and facilitate it for them. But also anyone that's even not our clients can purchase it as well.
Oh, I think it's a really great resource. And we'll make sure that we put that in our show notes that you can actually go to those master classes and be able to see what it is that Katie offers, and as well as her website and everything. So that way, our listeners and our viewers can actually see what it is you do and with this master class. So
sure.
I think it's awesome.
Welcome. We'd love to have you.
Yeah, I think it's a great resource for people to be able to see, which is kind of why I really wanted to start this podcast, was because, this is something that, I feel like everybody's trying to look for more information, especially when it comes to weddings. Everybody wants to consume whatever they can about what it is that makes weddings good, and like the good, the bad, the ugly, all that stuff. And, that's why I wanted to bring on all these vendors, especially in our area, that we can do something like this. So like, what areas do you cover like as a wedding planner?
Yeah, so our team lives all over the state of Maryland. So we claim Maryland as home in general.
That's your headquarters, right?
We just claim the whole state as our headquarters. But we plan mostly in Maryland, Virginia, and then DC. That's mostly where our weddings are. But we travel. So we do around 2 or 3 destination type weddings a year. And not like, we'd love to go to a tropical destination, but not like tropical, more like when you think of destination weddings, but more destinations that are very wedding heavy. So like your Charlestons, your Savannahs.
I see. Yeah.
So
absolutely.
And those clients, a lot of times are local, live in Maryland. We plan with them locally, but we're planning for a destination that's far away. We planned in Montana. We planned we're kind of all over the place, North Carolina. And we get a handful of those every year, which is fun.
Cool. Changes it up,
adds something different. We love our same venues that we work at all the time in this area. Like it's very comfortable. We love it. And we have good relationships there, but it is interesting and exciting to plan in a different place, meet new vendors that are local to that area, and kind of hone in on the exploration of and research of a location.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, destination weddings is definitely something I've done, I would say, a few destination weddings, but it was back to my home state of Oklahoma for a couple of friends. And that was my destination weddings.
Hey, still a destination.
Yeah. I still got to see family, which was nice.
Yeah.
But no, I would love to do more of those, but no, that's great. So we'll kind of start to wrap this up a little bit, but like the last question I definitely want to leave off with is, if there was one thing you could tell yourself when you started this whole journey, what would it be?
Well, I think I would tell myself like I said earlier, I started organically, right? I kind of learned on the job, learned as things were going. If people ask me now, like I get emails all the time of like, I want to get into the industry. What should I do? Like asking for advice, asking to intern, asking for different things. And my advice to them is always go get as much experience as you can before you do your own thing. So intern or assist a planner if planning's what you're interested in. If you're interested in photo or video, they're always looking for assistants too. And maybe not to actually shoot on a wedding day, but to change out film or to hold a camera or to do different things. So get as much experience as you can. Work for a caterer, which you're like, I don't want to be in catering, but like work for a caterer because then you get the timeline of a wedding day and you understand what's going on. Work for a rental company part-time, work at a venue, just do anything to get as much exposure to the industry as a whole that you can, because then you're going to meet people and you're going to find avenues to either work for someone or work on your own. So if I could go back, I would major in hospitality. I'd redo my college major. I'd major in hospitality. I would intern and get experience with a whole bunch more people. Obviously, everything worked out. Everything's great. But I think that as much experience as you can gain on the front end in the industry, the better off you'll be. And those relationships will take you so many places. So the more people that know you, the more people that are comfortable having you around on the wedding day, you'll get referrals. They'll lead you to new clients. They'll lead you to who knows what.
Thank you so much for being on the first podcast for Before You Say I Do. Thank you so much, Katie. And we look forward to hopefully working more together.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Before You Say I Do podcast. Make sure to subscribe, like, and follow our YouTube channel and podcast platforms.